Simon the Zealot. And actually, when you read in the book of Matthew and Mark, the version of King James says Simon the Canaanite, while else the other version says Simon the Zealot. And there has been a controversy over this, where other people believe that Canaanite refer to a person from Canaan or from Cana, while else other people portray Canaanite as the translation of the Aramaic word Kanaya, meaning the Zealot. Zealot was a sect of people who had this zeal to protect and to see the restoration of the kingdom of Israel. And Simon the Zealot is mentioned 4 times in the New Testament in places where the names of the disciples are listed. So we don't have a place where Simon the Zealot is specifically mentioned having attributed or done something, but he is mentioned in the 4 accounts. That is in the book of Matthew 10 and verse 4, Mark 3:18, Luke 6:15, Acts 1:13. And I want us to understand, why did Zealots have this strong hatred towards Rome? 1, Zealots were Jewish political and religious movement that emerged in the 1st century during the period of Roman occupation of their region, that is now modern-day Israel. The Zealots were committed to achieving Jewish independence and establishment of Jewish state that was free from Roman rule and influence. They were bringing theocracy, the reign of a godly kingdom in that territory. But we know that Rome at that time had invaded Israel, what we call the colonization. We know Rome is in Europe, and they had come in the reign of Alexander the Great. Zealots were deeply religious, and so the Roman occupation as a threat to the purity of Jewish faith and practice. These people, they were like the Puritan, yeah? They were fighting for their faith, only that they believe fighting with sword. They were like the people who read the Revolt. We know what we call the Crusades. Actually, the word crusade did not come with the preaching. No, they were crusaders, people who went to take the Israel, where now the dome is. They were trying to recapture that land for Christianity, and they were using the sword. That's why they were called crusaders. And when we take the metaphor of crusade, is when we go and, capture things by force, by fire, for Christ's sake. So those were zealots, yeah? They were trying to use the military operation so that they could overthrow Rome from Israel, because they believed they were also tampering with the purity of their faith. So in short, the Zealots' hatred towards Rome was a complex mix of political, economic, and religious factors. They saw Rome as very oppressive, so unjust. They were antithetical to Jewish national, and also they didn't regard their religious identity and were committed to achieving their independence and self-rule at any cost. So they continued to use this designation now to Simon the Zealot, even though we don't see him continuing to do this when he started following Jesus. Actually, I want to imagine what it felt when he said, "Give Caesar what belongs to Caesar." I mean, for Simon the Zealot, these are the people that we want to kick out of our country. And Jesus is saying that give Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Not even that. Imagine what it felt for him to have a tax collector. Zealots, they didn't want anything to do with tax collectors in their midst, having one as a colleague. I just can imagine how hard it was for Simon the Zealot. Either way, I thank God, because he was able to trade what he knew or what he believed for what Christ was able to offer. Because many times we don't really, understand why God may take us through some stuff. How can Jesus himself say that we obey the ruling authorities, that we obey our parents in the Lord, that we do this? And these people, sometimes they are not born again. How can he say that we be subjective or submit to husbands even though they are not born again and you are born again? It's the standard of the word of some things don't seem just right, yeah, from our eyes. But it is important for us to understand, just as Simon the Zealot, despite of what he might have faced, he really allowed God to work through him, because we don't have an incident where he rebelled against the faith. So Simon would also have been informed that they were coming, Jesus would destroy the temple. But again, the temple is the center of our religion. So these are all factors to show you that it's not easy following Jesus. We don't follow Jesus because he answers things the way we always wanted them to be answered. We follow him because he is supreme. He knows the end from the beginning. And if he says this is the direction, this truly is direction. And that's the mindset of a kingdomized person. Following and sticking to the will of God, even though it hurts. If God has not spoken otherwise, you are in the place God has sent you, and you feel their affliction, you feel that things are, are banging right, left, center, stay there. If at all God has not said, move, don't move, stay there. It is painful, but I tell you, it is better the will of God than our comfort, than our pleasure. And it is said that that Simon Zealot preached the gospel in Persia and was ultimately killed for refusing to sacrifice to the sun god. He died as a martyr. Despite Jesus not having fulfilled the kingdom or brought the kingdom the way he had the understanding of as a zealot, still he believed and he died for this faith.